Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
Lights out, podcast fans. Hello out there in podcast land, lights out land, wherever you may be. Joining us again, MMA detective Mike Davis. I'm Miguel Iturrate. That means we got a deep dive coming up. Chris Lytle getting ready to join us, along with our very special guest, Mike.
We got a man that hails from Georgia, and it's not Dusty Rhodes. We're looking at Forrest Griffin. When you look at the totality of his career, obviously everybody knows who he is. If you had to rank significant fights in the UFC, Royce Gracie, UFC 1, obviously his performance there takes the top spot. There is no better argument for number 2 than Griffin Bonner. And this is us getting the other half of that matchup, the match and rematch. We're going to be concentrating on pre-UFC. We will not do any UFC questions in this, and it's going to be a real fun walk.
Looking forward to it. Forrest is one of those guys that he like it, love him, not, whatever. He transcends. He had his moment where he was one of the biggest stars in MMA on the planet, and just being able to pin him down for this is kind of cool for us, I think. So I'm really psyched to get to know Forrest Griffin here.
So we got this by way of one of the people that listens, a guy that, we've all talked to in the past, prior to this podcast ever happening. He goes by Frank is Cool on MMA.tv, otherwise known as Frank Bishop. He was an early training partner and manager of Forrest prior to Forrest, needing some legit star-studded management with a deep roster. So Frank Bishop was real instrumental in this. I talked to several other people from Forrest's life. Maybe they kind of knew him peripherally, but they were there at some of the points that we're going to be talking about. And we're going super micro on this. It's going to be a fun one.
Where are you going to be, Mike?
My man, April 8th, south side of Chicago, Bourbon Street Bar, Ignite FC. I do the play-by-play with them. And the following weekend, I am April 16th in Orlando, Florida, Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro. I am hosting that Jiu-Jitsu tournament. Please register through Smooth Comp. And then a weekend after that, I'm in Minnesota, and I will have that information very soon. So I've got a pretty busy April, and please come out. It's always nice, putting a face to the name of the people commenting on our YouTube post. Like, share, subscribe. It really helps us out. It's kind of like giving us a tip. Spotify has got a new rating system. You're going to have to find it. Please give us 5 stars. It helps us in their algorithm. And dude, the reviews on iTunes have been coming in, Miguel. Actually, no ball busting the last few. So that's always good.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. I do appreciate everybody's participation. We're getting a lot of good feedback. Negative feedback, very little, few far between. So we must be doing something okay. Thank you very much for the support. And thank you, Forrest Griffin, for the next couple hours.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Thank you once again. Another fantastic deep dive. It's what we do, bring our favorite fighters here and let's hear their story. We got a special treat here for you guys. Very happy for this one. Have you guys ever heard of something called The Ultimate Fighter? Great series. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, or if not, you're not listening to this. But anyway, one of the guys who really, in many ways, made the UFC what it is today. Everybody knows the story. The UFC gets on The Ultimate Fighter. We start that, and the final fight. This is one half of the final fight that made that that blow up, and then in essence, the sport blow up. Good to have you, Forrest. How the hell you been, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. No complaints. Just hanging out in Vegas. This is the perfect temperature here. So this is that brief. We get like 2 months a year where the temperature's good. This is one of those 2 months.
Yeah, it's like that here in Indy too. It's like -8 or something. So it's it's getting warmer right now. It's not too bad. But man, like I said, good to have you. What you've contributed to our sport is we can't even really talk about how much it is. But anyway, what I like to talk about at the beginning, I like to go over, you were obviously a fighter that got on the Ultimate Fighter. Can you give us your background as far as what did you do before you started, combative sports? What did you do in high school? How did you get from being a high school athlete, college, whatever, into fighting? How's that journey had?
Yeah, just lucky, I guess. No, I was playing football and basketball like one does, and then when I was 19, I was thinking about trying to maybe play football for the University of Georgia, and I, did some practices, and I was like, oh, I'm not good anymore. Like I was pretty good in high school, and then I got to the big leagues, and I was like, well, I mean, the coaches didn't have anything nice to say to you if you're trying to walk on, and I said, man, I could grind this out for another 4 or 5 years and, maybe be like a kickoff special teams, maybe start in like 4 years. But, it was actually like, there's a lot to practice in college. And I was like, my grades are suffering. I'm going to lose what little bit of scholarship I have. So, I'll do something else. And then I know you're a fireman, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking about being like an EMT because when I originally started college, I was a nursing major. I figured being a doctor, man, that's really hard, but I could be a nurse. You ain't got to be real smart to be a nurse. Turns out you have to be smarter than I am to be a nurse. I had chemistry and calculus the same semester, and I said, man, it's time for me to find a new major. Yeah. And I had a cool political science teacher. I thought this is pretty cool. And I was still thinking about like maybe trying to be an EMT. And a short story, EMT school 6 months and they don't pay you. You pay for it up front. Police school is like 4 months and they pay you while you're in the school. As long as you make it, and then you work for them for 2 years after training. So, basically I just did my 6 month training, worked for them for 2 years. And then when I started fighting, I saw defensive tactics actually in the police academy. And that was the first time I really saw jiu-jitsu. I had done some tough man contests just, for fun. And, I was kind of looking for something to do, and somebody gave me some UFCs. And the first one I saw was the Vitor Randy one. I think it was 13 or 15. And I said, okay, that's a sport, I want to do that. I was like, I could do that. And I met Adam and Roy Singer, some guys at the whatever the UJ gym's called. And I was like,
it's called Hardcore Gym at the time.
Yeah, Hardcore Gym. Athens First Fitness now, I think, or Straight Blast Athens. But yeah, I went in and said, I bet I could do that. And you know what? I could not do that. I got beat up. And I said, hey, there's something to this. I gotta figure this stuff out. And man, yeah, I don't know how I think you kind of, you knew to wrestle and box. We were wrestling a little bit. We boxed. I actually wrestled with the club team. I worked out with the judo team. We would drive to Atlanta and spar in pro boxing gyms, which was a horrible idea. And, we would do Muay Thai some days, and we would, mess around with the jiu-jitsu club. So basically we would just train different arts every day, depending on who we could get together when. So it was, yeah, it was crazy training at that time,
What year would you say this is about?
2000.
Man, you're pretty far advanced for, 2000, not many people were doing a lot of cross training. That was right when they started, but I feel like a lot of people were still just fighting. Like, he's a good wrestler, he's a good grappler, but you're doing all these different things. And it's got to be really hard having no wrestling background to go in it. Was that pretty tough to learn any wrestling? Because maybe you being that big and strong was a good thing, but a lot of times, man, if you haven't wrestled, you start when you're 20, it's tough.
Yeah, for sure. It was, and I never became the wrestler that I thought I could have been. But, I wrestled with a club team, and I just, within the season, I was holding my own with everybody, at heavyweight. The other thing is heavyweight wrestling. Again, it's a club team.
Good
the
point.
Other thing is, the skill in heavyweight wrestling is maybe not, you can be a little skill deficient if you have good cardio as a heavyweight, or at least you could. You can't anymore. And then you got to think, too, this is back when jiu-jitsu worked. I triangled heavyweights off my back,
Yeah.
I remember being in a grappling tournament with a guy that had like the USA wrestling, with the belly to back suplex, the tattoo.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, oh boy, I immediately shot down. He pushed me to guard, and I immediately like triangled him. I was like, sure enough, it's back when jiu-jitsu worked.
It's interesting too. You mentioned Rory Singer. You had like a pairing of guys that would reach a pretty high level in the sport, because he was a guy who, I booked him a couple of times. He made the UFC and stuff. He's a guy who was no joke for those days.
Yeah, and shortly after that, we had Brian Bowles. We had a couple others. You know how it is.
Like Nathan Gaylord.
What?
Was it Nathan Gaylord that fought Eric Anders?
I think so. I can't place. I remember Eric. Eric's from a neighboring straight glass gym.
Yeah.
I remember him coming out. But yeah, we and that's a funny thing. I remember a lot of guys that were pretty talented that just didn't make it because of life circumstances. They ran out of finances and had to go get a full-time job, or they they had an injury and they weren't able to sustain themselves, in training. But yeah, I think we've all seen that. The people that for whatever reason just don't make it, even though they have that talent and ability in the room.
So
now,
you had
one more
mentioned.
thing. Go ahead, real quick. One more thing. Like, you amazed? I mean, at the level of how athletic and how just fast you have to be a college football player. I remember just seeing people like Division II, and like you have to be so fast. And as Division II, I mean, you have to be a complete elite athlete to be able to compete at a D1 university.
Yeah, it's funny too. Even the way football players. This was 1998 when I tried that, or 97, maybe 98. It's different, yeah, those guys were, again, you coming from high school to college, big fish, small pond type thing, and then you're like, oh, I'm a little fish in this huge pond. There was that, and that's, there was a lot of athleticism, but that's another thing. Even the sport of football, like the size of linebackers has changed versus the speed of them. The game's changed, like everything kind of, there's cyclical changes as people, change offensive schemes and defensive schemes. My problem, I was actually pretty quick, pretty strong, pretty decent size. I had very poor reaction time and like that basic cut footwork,
Really?
Yeah. But straight away, I was actually holding my own with a lot of decent, guys. But when it was, cutting, juking, making the right decisions in real time, I was never that great at it.
So let's start from the beginning. March 10, 2001, Submission Fighting Open 6. There was a promoter named Matt Waller.
Yeah, great guy.
That would do like tournaments and events, and you entered into a 4-man tournament, and your first opponent ever is Sean Gray. Do you recall that?
Nope.
Okay, so
now was that your first fight? Was that the first fight, really, or was that just?
It was. No, I know it was, because, dude, I psychotically researched him and got a hold of some of his old gym mates. So I will tell you.
I was
okay.
There, yeah. So I remember about that.
He was known as the Black Mamba.
Yeah, he went on to fight. Is that Sean Gray?
He was shoot wrestling. He was a shoot wrestling USA guy.
Well, he fought in the IFC tournament that I fought in when Jeremy Horn knocked me out. He fought Matt.
No.
He got guillotined by. No.
No, that's you're talking about Kevin Jordan.
No, Kevin Jordan made it to the UFC.
Okay.
He got guillotined at 205 against what was his name? Tommy Trauma.
Tommy Sauer. That's correct.
Tommy Sauer, yeah. So he was one of my first fights. He was probably maybe my first fight ever. I remember, I was just confused on his name. So I remember I still have a scar from him because he had long toenails. I was like, yeah, just
Wow.
Well, here, let's kind of frame this properly. So there's a 4-man tournament, Submission Fighting Open 6. It's in a boxing ring, middle of a gymnasium. Forrest comes out, and one of his corners at the time was Frank Bishop. And when I talked to Frank, he had mentioned, yeah, Forrest isn't going to remember any of these names. He just didn't care. And when I watched the videos, Forrest is kind of jumping up and down, doing push-ups, kind of doing somersaults. you really didn't care, even though this was your first fight.
No, man, it was for fun. It was for fun, It was fun. It was cool too, because only the winner got paid.
So it's a 4-man tournament, and you beat Sean Gray by armbar, and then you roll into Keith Blizzard. But the problem with Keith Blizzard is he doesn't have a prior fight. So I think it was a 4-man tournament for Forrest and nobody else in that tournament.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I armbarred Keith Blizzard too.
So how long have you been training at this point?
Probably a year and a half, maybe. Year and a half. Yeah, I've been training a bit, and I've done some, I've done some amateur boxing. By that time, I think, or right around then, I was doing amateur boxing, and I may have done a judo tournament. I'm not sure when that was. That was that went horribly for me.
So
if you're going to do a judo tournament, you should probably learn judo.
Yeah. So were you like nervous for this, or was that not that big of a deal to you? Or I mean, like sometimes your first fight, you've been paying attention and watching.
No, I wasn't nervous at all. No. Fast forward to the second fight, the second tournament.
Wait, that's May 19th, 2001. Some Fighting 7. You fight Jimmy Jennings.
No. I forget the guy.
No, you're thinking of Kevin Brooks.
Yeah.
But before that, you had 2 4-man tournaments. See, Frank told me he goes, this is what Frank said. Like, Frank gave me an hour and a half.
If anybody knows, it's Frank.
So Frank gave me like an hour and a half of his time. And he goes, no, man, you just don't get it, Forrest. Like, it's not an act. It's not a joke. He doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care. Like, and it's like a level of not caring that he has never seen before. Like, he's seen people not care, but not care, this not caring much. And he described to me, he's like, yeah, this is going to be a little messy because he just doesn't give a shit. So
yeah, what's funny is I thought I knew more about my life than I do, apparently.
Well, we're here to inform you what took place. That's why we're here.
See, I got a question for you. Rory actually, and I remember you guys were like, together. So if I mistake this, please correct me. But Rory had actually fought like in '99, and he fought like Rodrigo Medeiros, like a jiu-jitsu guy. Were you guys into jiu-jitsu? What was going on in your training?
So we were, and then Adam fought on that as well. We were, but that was right before I started training. I hadn't started training with him yet. And so Rory got Kimura'd in like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Right.
To give that guy credit, he was Vincent Luque's debut. I think he fought Vincent Luque in Judo in 2010 in Brazil. So, that guy goes back roots. But anyway, take over, Mike.
All right, so here we go. So he gets in one tournament. How about this? Forrest, did you think entering into the ring that day on March 10th, 2001, that the entire direction of your life would change and that this would become such a huge part of it?
No, but there was probably a part of me that kind of hoped it would or fantasized that maybe it would.
That's cool.
So you just mentioned the one guy I fought. It's 2
Here we go.
Yeah.
You get 2 subs. Your first tournament, actually, you win by armbar against Sean Gray. Your first Keith Blizzard fight, it's actually a rear naked choke. So then, and he doesn't have a fight prior. I talked to 2 people from that tournament. So then May 19, 2001, Some Fighting 7, it's a 4-man tournament. You roll in with Jimmy Jennings, you win by rear naked choke. Then Keith Blizzard is in an armbar, and he really didn't want to fight you. They said he was in the locker room saying, please, not again. And you armbarred him in like 30 seconds. So then you enter another 4-man tournament. This is his amateur career. Yeah. He's not getting like these. This is, go ahead, Forrest.
Yeah, I forgot about the middle one. That's hilarious. Yeah, I forgot about that middle tournament. Yeah.
So, dude, this is great. So, dude, this is one of my favorite fights of his. He fights at Gauntlet Trials, August 26, 2001. There's this dude. I would say he kind of looks like the Boz. like when Brian Bosworth had like the haircut and stuff, and like the whole trailer park was there, like rooting for him. Like the dude sold some tickets, and it's like if Joe Dirt, you know, did a bunch of push-ups every night and then decided to fight, and he did like karate, like traditional karate, and you fight Kevin Brooks.
Kevin Brooks had some boxing too. You know, Rory Singer beat Kevin Brooks as well. That's a different story, but yeah.
So why don't you tell us what happened? Because this is phenomenal in that fight. Do you recall?
Yeah. Kevin Brooks was beating the mess out of me. And I charged him with a double leg, and we hit the ropes, and his back, he snapped back like over the ropes because they were shitty ropes, right? And his back like locked up, and he spasmed. And this is how I know I'm a good person. He started to fall through the ropes, like onto the table. I don't think there was a table there, maybe like down, you know, onto the table. And I grabbed him and pulled him and just set him on the mat, and that was it. But meanwhile, it was probably like 2 minutes tops. In that 2 minutes, he'd swollen both my eyes shut.
So he was a Suha Kai fighter. Chris, you're muted. He was a Suha Kai fighter, and he would always have himself, because I watched like 4 of his other fights, and I respect him. The guy jumped in there 5, 6, 7 times, and you know he went balls to the wall.
He was on the card. He was on the card, and he was dominating the guy the night that I fought Monson. He was on the card with me that night because he was still a local hot shit. And then he was dominating the guy, and then he got clipped and fell down and like, you know, got full locked or something. Like, yeah, he was on. He stuck with it.
So he got stretchered from the ring that night.
Yeah.
Like he carried him out of there, but he would always be announced as having the fastest KO in Georgia history.
There you go.
Now, Forrest, do you remember the rules back then? I mean, was it MMA or was it NHB or what were the rules back then?
No, yeah. So that's funny. There was the first 2 tournaments he mentioned. It was pretty much go minus elbows standing, and then open hands on the ground. Actually, that might have been the rules for all of them. But the cool thing about the second tournament, and we'll get to Kevin Jordan in a second, who's right after Kevin Brooks, but the night before that, I was working, and these fights were, I forget where these fights were, but I was working the night before, and there'd been a fatality accident. And so one fatality, and one guy pinned in the vehicle, and, you know, getting him out, and his wife's like screaming at you to get him out. And I didn't get him out, but it was pretty cool because I was all fired up. I yanked the whole console out, like the middle console of the truck. I just yanked it out. And so by the time me and Rory got to that fight, I just was not like in a place where I wanted to fight people. I just seen a dude die the night before, his, you know, old wife screaming at me. And I'm just like, man, I really don't want to hurt anybody. And then in a warm-up, and you can probably relate to this, one of my worst injuries that I still feel every day is from warming somebody else up. But in this warm-up, my boy Big John's warming me up, and we're just kind of messing around like with some clenched knees. And for whatever reason, he just throws a knee right up the middle, and it just me like right in the xiphoid process. And like, you know, I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm like, you know, kind of hunched over the whole time. But yeah, that's that was going into that. And then I don't know, do you have the stats on the second fight? And Sean,
you know what? There is no video on that. I couldn't. But how were you feeling that day? I
mean, I don't know. I didn't really want to fight, you know. Or
I'm talking against Kevin Jordan.
Yeah, no. So right after I fought Kevin Jordan, I fought Sean Jordan.
No, when you fought Kevin Jordan.
Kevin Brooks.
Yes, Kevin Brooks and then Kevin Jordan. Yeah. So when I fought Kevin Jordan, I went into the fight. My eyes were like, at least one eye was shut. I think one eye was shut. And then, you know, he promptly shut the other one. And he was beating me up. And now I remember, elbows were legal. So I'm trying to throw elbows because it's the first time I've ever like thrown elbows, and we got a Thai coach. So I'm working all these elbows. Turns out that the fist extended is a lot more effective than the elbow if you've only learned how to elbow 2 weeks before. you know, and like it turns out that it's just longer too. Like you just like I'm trying to elbow the guy. He's just punching me at will. And I don't know what happened. He must have got tired of beating me up because he charged him to take me. He also fought in a shirt. he charged him to take me down, even though he was winning. And then I just immediately armbarred him on the ground, like as we fell.
So at this point, are you starting to figure out, you know what, I'm a pretty tough guy. Like some people cannot deal with being hit, deal with swollenness, deal with blood, and still come back and win. Like they're very good hammers, not good nails. Are you starting to feel I'm pretty good at both? I'm actually pretty good at this. Are you feeling that yet?
You know, I never figured I wouldn't be. I guess I wouldn't. I was just thinking, you know, here's another thing. I got like $200 the first go, and Matt only gave me $100. The first go, 2 minutes work, $200. Great, nice. The second go, I don't remember. This one, I'm beat up, blood's coming out my nose. I need stitches that I got to pay for myself. And he's like, "Hey, sorry, we didn't do too good. I only got $100 for winning this one."
So I was told that you were really sick that night too, the night before.
Yeah, I think I was. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
They said that they were they were putting some sort of tiger balm on you to kind of bring your fever down.
Oh man.
So I think this is actually Frank's got that wrong, because I remember the tiger balm thing. That was for my first professional fight. So the very next fight, which would have been
your very next one. That's Severn.
Dan Severn, yeah.
So that's October 27, 2001, Reality Super Fighting. Yeah. Chris Lytle, we've come into the territory of an all-star promoter by the name of Jamie Levine, which I am sure Forrest absolutely does not have any stories in regards to his shitbaggery.
Nobody does.
Everybody does. So funny. He was one of those guys. I know he's passed now, but he was one of those guys. You know, we had one contracted amount for the fight. He paid me something totally less. You know, we and just like, yeah, sorry. I forget. I fought for him one more time.
We got it.
We got it.
And he didn't learn. No, he did not pay me until I agreed to fight for him again. And when I said, "Okay, I'll fight Jeff Monson," that's when he paid me for the last fight. It was like, you know, it's like $600-800 or something too. But so he did end up paying me for every fight 3 months after, which is more than most people got out of him. So I got paid for every fight.
Chris, let's look at, we always like to look at careers, direction. Forrest obviously was listening to somebody when taking this fight, because he runs in against, in his first professional fight ever as the main event in his hometown against Mr. Dan Severn, who's probably got about 70 fights at this time.
Good thing there's no commission, because they would not allow that. You know what I mean? So what made, I mean, so you pretty confident you were going to win this fight, or how'd this go?
So I knew I could win, and I still feel like if I actually fought, I could have won. That I was really sick going into it. And I even looked really skinny. You know, I was still working full time, and I have other excuses too, but mostly, honestly, that dude is quick for an old man. Like I swear to God, man. Like I started touching him on the feet. All of a sudden, I'm on my back, and I'm like, not even like, you know, where somebody hits your hips and you have time to like start fighting. Man, he was really quick. Like he got down to the ankle and bent me back, like, you know, and there's no stand-ups then, right? It might have been 4-minute rounds, but there's no stand-up. So he got on me, he pulled me to the fence, and he put it on me, man.
So, and Chris, you guys gotta watch this fight. You probably heard.
I just started talking to him because I couldn't do it.
You were 100% communicating with him. Yes.
What were you saying there, Forrest?
I said, you know, you look like a fat Freddie Mercury.
That's very insulting.
You know, the TV must be slimming because you're a lot fatter in person. I just like stupid stuff, you know.
Coming out with your one-liners, your best material.
My A game.
I said something. It was a lot better. It was a lot better than anything I was putting at him fighting. I literally
him
had
too,
like
I mean.
one flurry in the beginning of the third round.
So Forrest,
What's that?
this is kind of where we get into like a little bit of deep water. And if you want to answer, cool. If not, no big deal. We respect whatever stance you take in this. So Dan, he's got a checkered fight history for sure. Yeah. And he loved fighting guys like in their first MMA debuts because it was easier wins for him. But there was also a rumor right around this time, because Dan wasn't a heavy puncher, that there was like Harbinger, like gloves that would have like a metal piece. Yeah. Did he would try to use those gloves in fights. Did he use that glove in that fight? Do you know?
I don't know if he did with me, but he's not the only person. A lot of people did. It's like a bag glove that they put the thing. Here's the crazier thing. I fought Harbingers where we had to take the rod out because I didn't want it to mess up my grip. But you know what, man? I don't even know if he punched me like on the feet. So I don't know that it mattered. He elbowed me. He headbutted me a lot, you know. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, I don't know.
Forrest, I used to love the old school days when it was bring your own glove. You know, everybody brought their own glove and nobody cared. I mean, I don't even know if the refs looked at him, man. They were just like, he's got gloves, and that was it. Like, bring your gloves, your mouthpiece, and your cup. It was like,
yeah. So that is crazy, right? And I'm sure you fought a lot like that. Like, what is wrong with me that I didn't ask to look at my opponent's gloves and be like, here's my gloves, let me see yours. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I remember in an amateur fight, cornering my buddy, and we're in the locker room, he's ripping half the stuffing out of his shin guards because it's like one of those fights. And then he was like, man, I shouldn't have done that because now I can't really use the shin guards for training. They're like $70, you know, the Rev Gear ones. I'm like, yeah, that was stupid.
So Chris or Miguel, when you guys watch this, the
Wild
announcer,
West, baby.
The announcer announces Forrest's name, and he does a couple like karate kicks. Like, this was like a hardcore announcer. Dude, it was horrible.
Oh, the announcer did karate kicks.
Oh, the announcer's doing karate kicks while saying names. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's good stuff. So from there, you go on to fight November 24, 2001, Pride and Honor in one of Rodney King's, the Straight Blast Gym Rodney King's events in South Africa.
Yeah.
What? You went to South Africa?
Yeah.
His second fight, main event.
Man, that's two fights and two main events. Wow.
I was only the main event. Do you know why that is? Heavyweights.
Okay.
Heavyweights. Back then, it used to be the order of the card. You know,
how much were you weighing back then?
Well, when I started, about 235. But by the time I would get to a fight, about 220 something. 223, 4, you know. So I would always start like, you know, 235-ish. And then, you know, as I trained for the fight, I'd get skinnier and skinnier.
Sure.
So do you remember going to South Africa and fighting Wiehan Lesh?
Wiehan Lesh, yes, I do.
You want to walk us through it?
I remember. This is great. Well, Roy had fought right before me and won, which always messes up your corner. Everybody thought I was pretty cool because I was reading a Harry Potter book in the locker room before the fight. It was in a very cool arena, Sun City. It was the same one that Hasim Rothman knocked Lennox Lewis out in. So it was a pretty cool arena. Yeah, same ring. Ironically, it was a boxing ring, not an MMA ring, which I found out about 5 seconds into the fight when the Olympic level wrestler slammed me on my shoulder and it promptly dislocated.
Oh.
And here's the crazy thing. If he would have just stopped, I would have quit.
Yeah.
But he slammed me, and then he starts kicking me like in the head on the ground because it was Pride rules, you know, because Pride and Honor, right? So obviously they're trying to rip Pride off. And then, so I just started fighting, and then, I kicked him once, and then he threw me, but he messed it up, and I ended up on his back, and I flattened him out. And I tried to choke him with my right arm, but it was still out of the socket. So I had no strength in it. So I took my forehead and jammed it on the back of his head. and then just put my elbow on the mat and just used it like a lever, just winched it up, and he tapped.
Man,
This is like a crowbar at his throat, like pulling it up. And then I was like, I need something to put pressure on with. I'll just use my forehead.
thinking outside the box, man. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's just, that's very innovative right there.
Here's the great thing. I don't know that guy had ever been in a fight before. He had like a whole career of wrestling. We were standing there and he's like looking at me and he looked very nervous. And I said, hey, man. I went up to the guy, I'm gonna fight. And I said, hey, man, don't be nervous. It's all good, man. It'll be fun once you get in there. You know how it goes.
Wow.
Because the guy looked nervous.
So not a lot of, you're not mean mugging him or trying to intimidate him. You're like, it's going to be fun.
That's
Well, so I mean, did they pop it back in right afterwards, or what happened? How'd that go?
Yeah, they got it back in. This is a good story, actually. They got it back in. They're really anti-pain pills over, so I couldn't get any pain pills. I don't drink like liquor at the time, so I'm drinking liquor for pain.
Yeah.
The exchange rate from the dollar to the rand was so poor that Rory and I took a 9-day safari or 7-day safari as opposed to money. So now my shoulder is falling in and out. Now we go on an amazing safari. We're riding on elephants, and the whole time we're going down water slides, and I'm walking around like this the whole time, like just hold my shoulder so it didn't fall back out. Fortunately, one of Rodney's partner's wife was actually a doctor, and she kind of helped me out a little bit. But yeah, that was crazy.
Now,
That's
so
pretty impressive.
what's going on in South Africa way back then? I mean, when you got to the show, was it like on the up and up and turn? Like the arena's nice, but weigh-ins. How was your hotel? What was the whole African experience like?
Yeah, it was a blast. There were people there. It was a good environment. People were cheering. I mean, it was a great trip, other than destroying my shoulder.
Okay,
cool. Which I've had 3 surgeries on. Same one. That's the start of it all. I had 3 surgeries on it thus far, and I actually have to get a shoulder replacement here, probably sooner rather than later. But no, wow. It was crazy because that was 2001, and there was there was a huge fan base for MMA in South Africa, and like what happened? I mean, they just couldn't keep the events going. They were losing money, paying stupid Americans and vacations, so
paying them in safaris. Yeah.
But
right around this time,
it was a pretty well-run event.
Yeah, Rodney King was a pretty famous guy in regards to, he had like a real interesting like instructional DVD as well. Crazy Monkey. Yeah. And it was kind of like a traditional martial art that just somehow translated as long as it was used right. And people actually used it to a relative degree of success.
We used it for our first 3 or 4 fights after that because he was a straight blast gym guy. We went and we learned it. And you will see Rory, especially, not myself so much because I boxed a lot, but Rory just walked into fights like this almost, like, if you have good elbows and if you can figure out how to punch from your head, it's not a bad defensive style. It also takes account that 80% of the punches in MMA are going to be towards your head. So who cares about your body? Yeah. It's really like, are you defending your body in a street fight? Probably not, right?
So Jamie Levine enters Forrest Griffin's life again, January 26, 2002, where you fight in Florida, reality super fighting against Jason Braswell.
Yeah, this is a great fight too. I'll tell you this one. It was actually pretty cool. I think Rory fought on the card as well. That's basically how we would, if the 2 of us fought as a package, we could get more out of it. And then we share the hotel room, yada yada. But and I think this was like a 100-kilo fight. Like, that's crazy. Well, they were doing
in
that
Florida?
back then, 100 kilos. Yeah. Well, that was the agreed upon. Me and Jason Braswell. Jason Braswell was like 220. I was like 225. So like, let's make fight like 223. It's like, all right, I can lose 2 pounds.
Yeah, Levine was making it up as he went along, but he did have like a heavyweight and a super heavyweight class, which, you know, some organizations did back then.
And he would use the metric system. It was very important to him.
So this was a great event. Two things happened here. One, on all the locker rooms, they posted signs that basically this is not legal in the state of Florida. If you compete in this fight, you risk being arrested.
Really?
Yeah. Look into that. Ask other people on the card. But yeah, every locker room had and it was like in a decent event, decent venue, whatever. But every locker room had basically a sign that said this was not a sanctioned event.
Now, Forrest, you're a policeman. Is this worrying you that you might get in trouble for this?
I had quit by this time.
Okay.
I had paid my contract back, and I'd quit to find fame and fortune as a professional cage fighter.
So you already done. Did you enjoy? Obviously, you didn't enjoy your time that much on the police department, but I mean, did you enjoy it a little bit? Was it an okay time? Did you like it?
You know what, man, the academy and doing it at a young age really taught me some good stuff. You know, I was never in the military, but yeah, just like authority, things that work for people, things that don't work for people. You learn a lot of life lessons pulling people over when you're a 21, 22-year-old kid, you know, and you're pulling a 44-year-old man over and trying to arrest the guy for DUI, and it's like, sir, you know, it was pretty good. Yeah, no, I learned a lot at that age. You know, you're very impressionable, and I liked the structure, and I liked the chain of command, and you have some rules to follow. And I always liked law enforcement. I thought you are, you're out for 8 or 12 hours a day, and you're basically getting paid to be a good Samaritan, you know? Yeah. And ironically, sometimes you help people by taking them to jail so they can't do anything else stupid until they sober up, you know, or you stop them before they can hurt someone, you know, hopefully, right? So yeah. And I went back to it later.
Okay. Do you get to tase anybody by that point yet? Had you tased anybody?
We didn't have tasers. We had OC spray. I'd sprayed a couple of people, but there were no tasers. There were tasers, but we didn't get issued them at anywhere I worked.
Okay.
Yeah. You had spray. We had. I'm sure you remember. We had asp batons.
Oh yeah.
Still had those. So yeah. But the thing about an asp baton, just sorry to get so off track, is those actually require a fair amount of skill. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is not like a taser. You just kind of it's similar to a gun. You point it, beep. All right, cool. 3 seconds. They take the ride, etc. With the asp, though, you got to like not hit people in the head, figure out how to hit people in the legs or arm. You know, it's
not hit your partner.
Yeah. Not break your own arm. You know. Yeah,
because it's usually during a scuffle. And well, here you had mentioned that there was 2 things that took place. One, a sign on the door. What was the second thing?
Oh God, what was his name? The guy that was like 6'10".
Wes Sims.
Wes Sims. Yeah, he was. So had I fought a little better, I would have tried to fight him in the main event. Maybe it was a co-main event, but he
was the main event.
Yeah, his opponent backed out and wouldn't fight. Got in the cage.
What?
And then no, he was a karate kid, straight up karate kid. Like, no, never been in a fight. Like 230 pound, like 5'11", 230, 40 pound fat kid. He moved all right for a karate kid, you know, but he wasn't the first coming of Stephen Thompson or anything, you know. And he's like, no, I can't do this. And I kind of wanted to negotiate and see if I could take the fight. But honestly, in my fight, I don't know what happened. I ran out, did something stupid. Jason Braswell took me down. I immediately popped his elbow. He let out like a little scream, and I let go and got up. Like within the first 2 minutes of the fight. And then he goes, click, click. Hey, I'm fine. And I was like, oh, yeah. You didn't actually ever tap. I just let go and got up. I'm kind of dumb. And then we went on, and I won a very close decision.
This is his hometown. He sold a shitload of tickets.
I won I was very fortunate to get that decision. I just remember this is the only time this ever happened to me, and I've only ever done this once. But he passed the cross side, and he actually kneed me in the head from cross side, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that was what I needed to get up." And then I just puffed because I was tired. I was like, "I will just stay here." Basically, I beat him up for about a minute, and then I got real tired, and then he beat me up, and then I pulled it out at the last 2 minutes of the third round. So I won the first 2 minutes of the fight and the last 2 minutes of the fight. In the middle, he beat me up. So fortunately, they didn't have very good judging, and they went with the recency bias, and I won.
That's awesome.
So
I got a real quick question. Forrest, you fought, old school like myself, where you fought with a lot of open rules, pride rules, less rules, and then you went with more the MMA route, obviously, as the sport transformed, where there was a lot, you couldn't headbutt, you couldn't need the head on the ground. I like to talk to other people. What did you like better? Did you like there being freedom to do whatever you want, or do you like it like, hey, this is limited to what I want to do? Well, what's more? I don't know. Do you like the Vale Tudo rules more, the NHB, or the MMA rules?
I don't know that it matters from an athlete standpoint, as long as you know what you're preparing for 8 or 10 weeks ahead of time. The one thing I will say that got me is here we are in a fight with pride rules plus elbows, right? But in a lot of fights, you couldn't do that, right? So what did confuse me is a change of the rule set, because you would fight under different rule sets. There were a couple basic
every time.
Rule sets. Yeah, but it's basically the change that is not good for the fighter or the ref. I ended up reffing some fights later, and I was like, wait, what rules are we using today?
Yeah.
No, I don't have a good excuse for my poor refereeing. They were the UFC rules.
So let me kind of, Chris, let me just frame this properly before we get on to the next topic. I'm going to apologize. So Wes Sims fights Mike Paduano in the main event that Forrest had described. Wes said that you two were sharing a locker room and you guys could hear Paduano doing his katas. Like his warm-ups were his karate katas. And before he got to the cage, he pulls out and Jamie convinces him, just get to the cage. We'll figure it out there. We'll talk there. And Wes said that Paduano gets called out first. He gets called out second. When he's in the cage, Levine is in the cage telling him, Wes, I'm going to shut this door and I'm going to ring the bell. I need you to run across the ring and attack this guy. He's like, you have to do this. You have to just run across the ring. I'm going to ring the bell. And Wes goes, Wes is nuts. Like Wes Sims is like, there's no faking his psychotic behavior. He's just like, all right, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So the referee got in between Wes and wouldn't let Wes charge across the cage because the guy grabbed out of the cage and was facing his team and refused to turn around. So Wes is like almost like in a football.
It's worse than you think. It was his dad that he was talking to. And here's the crazy thing. Me and Rory went out and was like telling the kid, it's going to be okay. Just fucking go out there, throw a big haymaker. As soon as he hits you, scream tap. I was like,
get money, get paid.
You make a couple $100. He's like big. He tries to knee everybody. He's got long arms. Just run in, try to close the distance, throw one big or two overhand haymakers, and when he starts hitting, you just scream tap on the ground and act like you're dying.
You know what I bet happened? I bet he read the sign on the wall and didn't want to get arrested is what really happened. That's what the story nobody's telling.
He should have played that up. I
would have.
Yeah. So
I'm not, you see that sign? I'm not getting arrested for nobody.
There was about a 3-minute conversation between me and Jamie where I was trying to convince myself to offer to take that fight.
Wow.
But I was actually pretty banged up from the first fight. And that would have been a good fight for me had we both been fresh. That's a fight you should make at heavyweight, right?
It's a big guy too.
He would have done well. He would have done well against me. Until I could get him in deep waters, right? and you know, but then I was thinking, maybe we can make this fight later. I don't know, this guy's slack with the money, which I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't get paid for that fight for like 4 months. So,
Yeah.
So was Mark Coleman there?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It's possible.
Okay.
I did know who Mark Coleman was at that time.
Yeah. Now, were you a
Okay.
big fan? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I got a question for you, and it has to do with your style. Just remembering the old days, is it something that part of your mindset was, look, I'm a pretty sturdy dude. I'm going to take some of their just to give it back, because you had that reputation, like a Heath Herring, like you took punishment like very well. You know, like that was your rep, like a sturdy, tough dude.
Yeah. No, I was pretty tough, and especially at heavyweight, you're getting clipped. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'd ever been knocked out in a fight at this point. I'd been knocked out in boxing spars multiple times by this point, but I'd never been knocked out in a fight or even hurt in a fight. You know,
Right.
and I think when you haven't been hurt in a fight, you have a little bit of, you know, whatever. You know, you have to go for, but again, like I've been knocked out a couple times boxing. I remember I had a great story. I drive to the gym. I spar in Atlanta. It's 2 hours drive. 6 hours later, I get to the house and I don't know like what the hell I've been doing, like how I got home. I would have gotten half of the time I'd gotten a DUI. It's a 2 hour drive. It took me 6 hours. I don't know where I was. I don't know what I was doing. Another time we sparred, and you know, I ate before I drove home. I left my keys on my tray and threw them away, and I was like at the store for like 2 hours, because like, you know, you put your keys on the food tray, and I threw them away, and then I'm like looking through the trash, and then I'm like, man, these kids, and I'm just like eating garbage food as I'm sifting through the trash, looking for my keys. It's great.
Hey,
He's one of them crazy white people.
Looking in the trash, and people are giving him dollar bills. Thinking he's the homeless guy. Here you go. Your luck will turn around, buddy.
That's crazy.
Reach for the stars. Yeah, kid. So April 12th, 2002, battle at the brewery. You fight a very tough Kent Hensley.
Yeah, that was, I mean, he's one of those guys, man. He was the local legend. People don't know, you know, he never went on to do anything, but he was the local legend. Those guys had it going on. He had, I mean, there was a promising prospect he fought like a fight or two before at 205. And he, I mean, he basically ended that kid's career, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just a bad matchup, you know, this kid at 205, Kent was a little bigger. Kent might have been supplemented a little bit.
So, I mean, just so I can kind of frame this properly, Ken Hensley was a huge, like local neighborhood tough guy.
Yeah.
He practiced Kodokan Jiu-Jitsu, whatever that
Sounds
is.
tough. That sounds
And
the
do
big
you remember
thing
what
is
his
he
trainer's
went to
name
Thailand.
was?
But he'd been to Thailand, the Norseman.
That was his nickname. Well, who was his trainer?
Oh, we used to make fun. It was another kickboxer. We used to make fun of him because we used to say that their gym, they had a funny gym name, and we used to say that, oh, that's Thai for pharmacy.
So his trainer was Kevin Jacobs, who was like, you know, like kind of like a legendary kind of just older coach that everybody like kind of was afraid of, but you only really saw him fight like maybe once. You know, it was more a lot of bark, you know, not a lot of show.
Yeah.
Do you remember his warm-ups in the background, in the back room?
Yeah, what? Tell me about. I remember it was crazy. What was he doing exactly?
He was kicking chairs, folding chairs.
Yeah. You know, it sounded more. It looked more impressive than the kicking folding chairs. Now it's like whatever. But I hadn't even ever seen like a Van Damme movie, so I didn't know that was a thing. I was like, okay. But I remember, oh my God, Dan, I forget Dan's last name. I love him. He lives in North Carolina now, but he was holding pads for me, and he had a couple drinks. And I was like in the best flow of my life. I was like, pop, 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 pop. And like, I was like, all right, I'm fighting the total badass. I'm fighting the baddest dude in the state. But man, I kind of feel good right now. you know?
Hey,
So,
I
Chris-
have a question. I mean, were you nervous for any of these fights ever? Do you ever remember being like, man, I mean, these early fights, any nerves or not really?
Not really.
That's good. That's good. So at this
that's the answer
point,
a
like,
psycho would give.
no, at this point, I mean, you've already kind of said you quit. Or you quit being a policeman, so you're pretty dedicated at this point. Do you feel that there's a career path here?
So yeah, my goal was to make it to the UFC, to fight in the UFC or Pride. I love Pride. I was a huge Pride fan for 3 to 5 years. Make as much money as I could, chunk some of that away, and then go back to law enforcement. You know, so
Okay.
I was honestly careful, like not to smoke pot, like don't steal things, like don't do stuff that's going to make you fail a polygraph, so you can't get back into law enforcement.
Okay.
So I thought, man, you know, I'm just going to do this for 3 to 5 years, as long as I can, make as much as I can, and then go back and get a real job. Or
Okay.
Get, you know, yeah.
So, I don't know. I
I'm
can't
still
imagine
waiting. I'm
lining
still
up
waiting to
folding
have to get
chairs.
that real job.
Yeah, for sure. I can't imagine lining up folding chairs as a part of my warm up, but you know, your corner had told me it was very impressive. It was very loud, and he would break chairs, like just jumping up and down on them, like as his warm up.
People, man, and here's another thing, Chris. I'm sure you guys can all relate. The warm up area and the audience was kind of like they could see you warming up. So everybody's like, holy shit. And that's I remember after I win the fight pretty easily, actually. I don't even know if I got hit. And I gave maybe the worst post-fight speech I've ever given in my life. I don't even know why. I was mumbling.
Let's hear it.
I was just like, you know, this guy's pretty awesome. Yeah, sure, I was scared of him, but you know, that's how you do it, you know. It's just like you know, jiu-jitsu. I was like, what?
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I was like, he's awesome, you know, he's a badass and all, but you know, it's just like it's just too good today. I don't know.
Forrest, it's amazing to me how after a fight your adrenaline is so high. When you start talking, it's like you watch the clip afterwards, you're like, what was I even talking about? It's almost like it's an out-of-body experience. Like you can watch yourself saying, you're like, man, this shit ain't good, but keep going. You know, it's unreal the stuff that comes out of your mouth. And later you make fun of yourself, but it happens. But I've done it before myself. I
know you have. I've seen you do it. I've heard you. It's been like, I don't know 100% what he's saying. But here's the great thing on that. I'm actually like most of my post-UFC interviews, win or lose, were pretty good.
Yeah.
This was the worst one ever. This was just like, oh my God, what are you even saying? And like I would watch the fight and be like, all right, turn it off now. Don't. I'm gonna say some weird stuff that's not even true. Like I was saying stuff about him because I felt like almost bad for the audience because they were so stoked. And here I am, I beat this guy in a minute. So do you have what actually happened in the fight?
No, there's no video. I couldn't find it, dude. I
Oh, there's video. Frank Bishop let you down because I've seen the video.
He said he's got it on VHS, but he doesn't have it.
Like I said, there's video. I've seen the VHS.
He's like, I think I got it on VHS. I have to like convert it and send it to you. I go, man, you should upload it.
Yeah.
I think I have it on VHS too. I have it copied off of Frank's. You know, where you play it on one VCR and you record it on the second VCR? I've got that.
Does it have the chair kicking in it?
I don't think it doesn't. I don't think it's
that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, just think, I guarantee the crowd was watching that guy kick chairs and everybody there was betting on that guy. This guy's going to kill this Forrest guy, man. He's kicking chairs back there.
He's killing that furniture.
And I'm so like, play your home goofy, like, you know, Will Ferrell looking dude, just, okay.
Somersaults.
We're to fight today. And then, I went out, I threw like 3 consecutive right hands. He went to clinch me. One of us landed a knee to the body. I spun behind him, went to his back, got a hook in, started punching him in the ear a little bit. He did something stupid. I started to armbar him. I lost the armbar, transitioned to the triangle. And then this one I messed up, though. I remember like he tapped and I let it go. And then I was like, oh wait. I've made a similar mistake before. And then I viced it right back down. And you know, Chris, you'll be able to, you know how back then they used to say, when you're doing the triangle, don't grab your foot. It'll tear your knee. Remember, it was like a thing, like don't grab this part of your foot.
It's not true.
But everybody, they would always tell that. And I grabbed the wrong part of my foot. I remember remembering that and saying, well, you know what? If I tear the knee right now, it's fine. Yank it, you know? And then, yeah, that's all I really remember about it. He tapped and I started to let go and I was like, oh, no, wait, nope. All right. And the ref came and then I was like, okay.
You learned. Good.
Yeah. It's kind of like that pro wrestling moment where you just point at your head. Like I learned from my mistake, you know?
Yeah.
So from there, Jamie Levine, you must have sold a shitload of tickets for you to constantly be on Jamie Levine's radar, especially in that either main or co-main event spot.
Yeah. I was, I mean, like I said, I was durable. I would fight anybody. I'd never pulled out of a fight. I would work, you know, I'd work the night before, sleep 3 hours, and then drive to Atlanta to fight somebody. So yeah, why wouldn't you like that kid?
So June 29, 2002, WEF2, you fight main event against the Snowman, Jeff Monson.
Yeah, how about these names? Just random initials, right? World Extreme Fighting, like, yeah. If I ever start a fight company, 2 names. We're not having 3 initials, just 2. You know? Fighting Inc. or something, you know?
FG so, Fighting.
Yeah, this was a rough fight. This was a rough fight for me because I was working as a bouncer and I needed like the $75. So I'd worked and then I worked the night before. I go to weigh-ins, but I'm on a night schedule. So I'm like up all night and then, you know, whatever, yada, yada. And I just remember like, you know, I drove 2 hours to the event and I was really nervous before this fight. Not because I was afraid of Jeff Monson or I knew who he was really, because I could not get warmed up to save my life. Like I couldn't break a sweat. I couldn't get warmed up. I had no energy. Yeah, my corner, like Rory and Adam didn't get there until like right before the fight too, like an hour before, because Rory fought and lost. Like maybe the fight before me or 2 fights before me. So, you know, it's just like shit vibe, you know. And then the guy who lost in that fight was amazing. Never went on to do anything.
Really? Did you know you didn't know anything about Monson at the time?
I mean, I did. I knew he was a thing. I don't know if he'd been in. I guess he'd been in UFC and then already been out. You know, I'd seen him fight. I know done a little film study on him.
2-time jiu-jitsu world champion.
You knew he was going to get you to the ground, right?
Yeah, I didn't know a ton about. Yeah, I didn't really know.
You thought he was going to try and get you to the ground, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So the thing about Jeff. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's another funny thing about this one. We fought on vinyl, main event. There's blood, sweat on it. Every time I threw a kick or tried to really commit to a punch, I would slip. Every time he would shoot, his feet would go out from under him. So we were both screwed. Like I remember, I ended up winning in the overtime round because he hit me and his feet started like slipping backwards and I just pushed him over, ended up on top of him half guard and just, you know, sat and did that for like the last minute of the fight. But yeah, that was great. So
with Jeff, there's a lot of moving parts. I don't know. Did you ever hang out with him at all, ever?
I did. I was on a plane where he almost got arrested.
For what?
A flight. All right. He was wearing a shirt, no shoes, but he laid down on the floor of the aisle and put his feet up like on the chair. And they were like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, no, it's okay. It's like, oh, my back hurts. It's fine. And I was like, they were like, no, you can't do that. And they were like really freaking out. And he was just like, no, it's fine. I don't even remember what happened. I was probably reading like Harry Potter or something, Lord of the Rings or some nonsense, you know?
So Jeff, when we interviewed him, he told us about this. He said that they were so upset with him that he had to go and his back was hurt so much. that he had to go to the airplane bathroom, and he said he sat on his head on a urine-soaked floor in order to like ease his back pain.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, he had chronic back problems. Like, I mean, the story to him, he was picking up Aaron Riley at an airport. Aaron told this story, and Riley shows up and he's lying on the floor, and he's like, "You're gonna have to pick me up." Aaron's gonna take, Aaron's a 160 pounder. He's got 230 pounds of Jeff Monson like a baby trying to get him in a car. It's not easy.
Yeah, in our Dennis Hallman interview, Dennis wanted to talk about everything except fighting, and Dennis at the end said that Jeff shot urine into his bladder in order to beat drug tests.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said he injected someone else's pee into his body.
Like,
Interesting guy.
With
Did
your
you guys-
limited,
Hold on, you guys didn't see the program? He
No,
puts
no.
the catheter up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
puts the urine in.
The football movie, yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing.
yeah.
Okay.
But
I don't
as
know.
an EMT though, there's with your limited EMT training, there's something unhealthy about shooting.
I'd
don't
advise
know.
against it. That's all I'm going to say. I wouldn't
Hey, man.
recommend it.
Hey, they
Wouldn't
do
even drink it.
fecal transplants out there, okay? Fecal transplant. It's a thing.
Not
Look it up.
urine transplants. I'm not familiar with.
So, Forrest, after this,
Hold
Chael
on, wait,
Cooper.
real quick. Tell us a little bit about that fight. How'd the fight play out?
Well, he beat me up the first round.
Just taking you down and mauling you? Or?
Yeah, he did a pretty good job. I don't remember that much of the first round. I fought like shit. Like I said, I went to throw a kick, just fell down. Like, I mean, I'll give him credit for the takedown if he wants, but it's just like, and then I also remember he's got very short arms, obviously, but he's actually got some pretty good power.
Oh, he's a strong guy.
He clipped me a couple times, and I was like, all right, I should probably move my feet a little bit because he's punching pretty decent here. And then I mean that was just fatigue for both of us, And then I think I got the second round. Third round was pretty close. And then the overtime round, he just, after that initial shot, he really just didn't have any go.
All right, so do you think the referee may have stood you up unfairly in that bout?
Oh, did that happen?
That's what Jeff claimed
Well.
when we interviewed him.
I don't recall. It's possible. Yeah. But
Do you think the deck was stacked against Jeff because Jamie was, I don't know, championing you as being one of his guys?
So no, because Jeff was the much bigger name than me.
Yeah, but you fought cheap. Jeff probably got paid.
Yeah, Jeff got paid. I fought cheap for sure. But on that one, who was the ref? You got to look at the ref.
You know what? I got his name written down somewhere. I don't have it on my
and
notes.
also too, not to throw stones at Jeff, but he's not known for being the most active guy.
No, he stalls.
Like if he would get on top, think about his jiu-jitsu career. He's gonna hang out, and then you're gonna go real hard for the last minute.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
even, I think the stand-ups, like I think they actually might have helped him because they just helped him notch another takedown. They made him do.
You might be right on that.
It was
And
like
the
otherwise
scorecards.
he was just gonna lay on top of it.
Yeah, the scorecards were read, and this is Jamie Levine, all-star promoter. He's in our promoter Hall of Fame, right next to Brad Kohler, and the scorecards were 13-8 one judge, 12-4 a different judge, and it was indecipherable the third judge. It was just a real weird.
What does
scoring.
that even mean? 13-8. What is that?
That's what we asked Jeff. I had no idea.
Hey, as long as I won.
That's
Look, good
Hey,
point.
look, all that matters is I definitely won the 3-minute overtime that neither of us knew was coming.
So did Jamie come into the ring and inform you guys for doing overtime or you wouldn't get paid? What took place there?
I don't know. I wish I could remember, but I have no idea. I just remember thinking, well, if you don't do it, you're a wimp, or maybe not so kind. So I was like, I have to do this though. I wouldn't even pay attention to him. I was just like, I have to do this.
Myself complained of the overtime round. He's like, we didn't know there was an overtime round that
No, we
existed. Yeah, Monson said the same thing. Yeah. It's,
I had no idea. Hey,
I mean, for those listening at home, we collected a whole bunch of bizarre, off-the-wall, crazy stories about Monson from his former training partners. And then in our interview with Jeff, we asked him one by one every single story, and he confirmed everything and made it worse. So, like, there is like no embarrassment out of him. And if a story is terrible, he'll make it worse for himself just so you could hear it. Highly suggest listening to that interview. After that, October 26, 2002, Chael Cooper throws his hat into the ring in regards to promotions, and he does one event only with Cage Fighter Championships, where he puts you in against Travis Fulton.
Yeah. Was that Chael Cooper?
It was Chael Cooper.
I thought it was a different guy.
No, see, he worked at different events. He was kind of like a guy that was, judging. I don't know about refereeing, but he was always working events. But this was his one-time promotions. I actually talked to him online, and he said, dude, he lost his ass so much that he couldn't do another event.
Forrest finally getting paid. What'd you get him? You got him for a lot of money.
Tens of hundreds of dollars, Forrest.
For Fulton, I don't know. Did he know? Did he know what he paid me for that?
I didn't ask. I figured I didn't want to insult him because I had a conversation with him. I figured I'd ask you, and then you could throw him under the bus.
I wish you would have asked. Look, I remember not having enough money to buy a Red Bull before the fight, and they weren't going to give it to you for free. And I was like, hey, Roy, I need a Red Bull, man. I need, because a lot of times I work night, and so I was like, yeah, I need a Red Bull, and it worked. Red Bull was good.
It gave you wings.
Yeah, there you go. Big commercial.
Talk us through, Travis Fulton comes in at 109 wins, 28 losses, 7 draws. And, with somebody with that much experience, you would figure he'd have the forethought and knowledge of not wearing a wrestling singlet in a cage fight, but he didn't, unfortunately.
Look, bro. When you got man boobs, you cover them. You wear the bra.
That's a good point.
That's what was happening there, bro. He also wore wrestling shoes.
So, Forrest, you're 5-1.
He had no intention of wrestling. He would try to. He came up the knock. He had no intention of wrestling. Wrestling singlet, wrestling shoes. It's a mind games, bro. It's kind of genius on his end, right?
Kind of a clown show. But...
So, you're 5-1. He's got, about 150 fights at this time. So we're looking at the beginning of Travis Fulton's career.
The first half, yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember that fight?
Yeah. Jab, land, cross, land, fall, run over, take his back, elbow him for about 4 minutes straight. Blood everywhere. I chipped my elbow on that son of a gun's head. Still got the chip today. Blood everywhere. And he basically he waved off the second round. They couldn't get the blood to stop.
Wow.
So you threw one combo. He went to the ground. You took his back, and it was like a prison style beating.
It was crazy because
minus the aftermath.
He didn't quit. Like he'd be kind of like where he would get flat out and then he would base back up and crawl back into it and try to fight again for a second. Like right when the ref was about to stop it, they'd be like, nope, got to keep letting you go. Yeah, I just remember it's so great because jab, touch, cross, touch. It's like I was 100% in my strikes. Literally 100%.
You're like watching Rocky. He didn't block any of it, huh? Just everything lands.
Well, you know what, man? What it was is I don't touch gloves or anything. I just come out and go. I think he was still like developing a plan, like trying to find the rhythm, And I just come out, ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
When you heard the news about Travis and obviously how his life tragically ended,
the demise,
were you surprised by that?
Oh yeah, horrified, mortified.
That's sick stuff. So shortly thereafter, December 15th, you get your Christmas check coming from King of the Cage, Steve Seja from Team Cannon. So wait, Forrest, before you answer, he goes from Travis Fulton to Shannon the Cannon's main training partner.
I did not know that. I know. So that's a cool event for me. I learned a lot of things. I learned that Albuquerque's at altitude. Didn't know that before I got on the plane. When you're fighting heavyweight and you have to work for a Saturday fight, you go out Thursday. That's not a lot of time to adapt to, altitude, which I had no idea was a thing. And I was like, wait, Albuquerque's at altitude? Like, I know Denver is, but Albuquerque? Because I'm coming from literally 16 feet below sea level. The other cool thing there is that's when I met basically all of Jackson's guys. Keith Jardine was in the locker room smashing chairs like a psychopath. I talked to
That was the move.
Yeah, I talked to Greg Jackson that night, which is pretty cool because I knew him. I knew he was a good coach.
Wait.
Diego.
So at this time, Forrest, I apologize. At this time, Jackson MMA, I believe, was known as Ryu Jiu-Jitsu.
What was it?
It was Ryu Jiu-Jitsu. So we're
yes.
So we're supposed to have like Diego Sanchez on sometime soon. I don't know when, but maybe if he sees this, he'll finally come on board. And
so Diego, they honestly thought, like, no kidding, King of the Cage thought this would be like a good fight for Shannon Canton. Now here I am. I've got another great story about this fight. So here I am. And I'm just kind of like at the weigh-in, just hearing stuff, heavyweight, so it's not a big deal for us. But they're talking about, look, this kid is a high school wrestler with a little bit of jiu-jitsu. Talking about Diego Sanchez. This is Shannon the Cannon's bounce back fight. This is his, all right, we're going to set things right and get it going. We're going to get your career back on track, kid. And he comes out to a savage single leg ground and pound machine that is Diego Sanchez. And in Shannon's defense, he didn't quit fast enough in that fight. Diego put it on him.
How long did that fight last?
I don't know, but longer than it needed to.
I tell you, Diego Sanchez back in the day, bro, him and Joe Daddy Stevenson were no joke. Yeah. So
I've got
Greg
Jackson's both
like,
those guys quite a bit. Yeah.
I have actually by date got his gym name changes, and I plan on like hitting Diego with those because every step of the way he was there. It's like, why a different name? Did you move? What happens? Big knees go into the mount. You end that fight with a knockout, and you wait a little bit. You wait about 6 months, 7 months in July 31st, 2003.
So,
no, you had it canceled about February 21st, 2003 against Paul Buentello.
Ooh.
He was supposed to fight Paul Buentello.
Let me be clear here. We're not waiting to fight. And Chris knows what I'm talking about. You fight when there is a promoter dumb enough to put money up for you to fight. This is the truth. Like, you fight like when it's available. So I am going to fight in the heavyweight tournament for King of the Cage. And shortly before that fight, I think Paul Buentello wasn't my first opponent, I don't think. Maybe he was, but there was some other guy. It was like 4 of us. And so it's like a tournament, right? Like boom, boom, boom. Not a tournament in one night, but basically like the Grand Prix, I should say. And, I'm excited. It's a decent payday, maybe $2,000 or something. I don't know. They don't pay a lot. And I shatter my hand before that fight. I get 2 spiral fractures in both my metacarpals. I'm just like, yeah, that was a rough time for me. So
Were you back on the department?
Huh?
Were you back on the department at that time?
No. I was homeless. If it weren't for Rory and Adam, I would have been homeless. I had no money. I had like negative money in my checking account. The thing about everybody thinks you can go to the hospital for free, and I do. And they're not going to do surgery on you for free. They put me in a cast for free. They give me some pills. They send me home. But there's no like, they're not gonna like, oh, you need an orthopedic surgeon. They can't orthopedic surgeon you in ER. You're just screwed. And it was my right hand, and they gave me some paperwork to fill out. And I'm like, bro, I'm right-handed. I can't, like, my hand is in pieces there. And
what happened? How'd you do it?
Man, so it was late it was late in the round. I was working with a kid who was a state championship level wrestler. It was when we would do big gloves, little gloves. So he's little gloves, I'm big gloves. He's trying to take me down, and I'm trying to take his head off. And he's doing a great job. And I kind of like, as I throw like a hard punch because I'm exhausted. So I'm trying to keep this kid off me. And I kind of hit him in the hip, and it's just my hand breaks. And then like my hand wraps had already come loose, because you know how you try to do MMA in hand wraps, they come loose, no kidding, right? But this is before 8-ounce puffies, which are genius. 8-ounce gloves, 10-ounce MMA gloves. Those have changed training a little bit, a lot actually.
So your hand's destroyed. Like, what do you do? I mean, you can't get surgery. What do you do for just let it heal?
So I couldn't get surgery. I couldn't work as a bouncer because you can't work in a cast as a bouncer. So I have nothing. I think I was already living on Roy's living room floor on a mattress, but now I can't even pay Roy his rent that I owe him. And then
you were like his pet,
because I'm a genius. Yeah, his pet. They would just like eat his food as soon as he left the house because I had no food.
Access to his refrigerator.
Check this out. Do you guys know like Ryan's Steakhouse, all you can eat?
Yeah.
So I would go in with like a book or some magazines at around 11. I would eat lunch. Go in the back. I'd read for a couple hours, and then I would eat dinner. So I ate both my meals for $6.
They hated you, man. They hated you there. They're like, get this bum out of here.
The homeless? Who is this guy?
I'm sitting there in the back. I mean, I was homeless. I was living in Roy's.
He's a vagrant.
That was great, though. I would do it every day. I would do it every day. I come in, you pay it's like $6.99 all you can eat, $5.99 all you can eat, actually, And then I just sit. I would eat lunch and read, whatever. And then I'd eat dinner. And then I'd go.
Oh, the waiter must have hated you.
Yeah.
No. There's no waiter.
There's no waiter.
They seat you once, and then you just help yourself, man. Yeah.
And Forrest, it's
like
amazing.
Paradeo or one of those places.
It's amazing what people had to do just to hold on to this dream to be a UFC fighter one day. You know what I mean? I mean, these people nowadays will never understand that there was no money at the lower levels at all. It was just a grind just to try and even. And really, we were stupid for thinking you could make any money because there was no money even in it back then. You know what I mean?
There wasn't, but, we'd gone to like a Randy Couture seminar. We'd gone to like a Milicic seminar. We'd trained with these guys. So we knew that, we watched the UFC and we assumed that those guys were making really good money. Little did we know, at that time, right? But, yeah. It's a struggle for the guys today too. If you come out and you lose a fight and you get all your money and then you pay your medical, because now you got to pay for the medicals. At least we didn't have to do medicals. I just remember, like, if you could come up with a negative HIV test, you're good to go, and you can get that for free at the clinic.
Yeah. Forrest, did you ever fight in the UFC when afterwards everybody on the card would go to the hospital, the ER, and be like, "Yeah, I hurt my hand and my back and my knee," and they're like, "Your fight lasted 32 seconds." Yeah. They always asked if you want to go to the hospital, and everybody went because they didn't have health insurance. Do you fight back in there? Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah, I got a cold. So I got a cold in the fight. If you guys give me some antibiotics for that, it'd be great.
I got to get my tooth pulled, hurts a little bit.
Always like,
Forrest,
always everybody had a lot of problems. It was funny.
You really went all in. Like, had this not panned out for you, oh my God.
So you know what I did though? I committed a felony. I took out a student loan to finish school. Withdrew from all my classes, cashed it, bought myself a new hand. Actually, you know what? Roy and Adam helped me out too. They helped me out with the hands. I used some money, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's actually a felony
Like, dude, you know, I'm from Chicago.
Statue.
I'm from Chicago. Everybody in the inner city does that. They say it's how you get free money.
Yeah, you take out student loans and then just don't go to school.
Right.
Yeah. You just gotta know, if you withdraw from all your classes in the first 3 days, they will give you that government money back, or at least they used to. It was a loophole.
No, it's still happening.
That's
true.
That's how I survived at that time. Now I talk about being poor, and I was poor. I only had free t-shirts, blah, blah, blah. But my parents were still middle class. So at some point I could have borrowed a phone and said, "Hey Mom, you got to come get me." It didn't work. Come get me. You know, so I always had like,
you had an escape plan. Yeah.
What's sad is like, I thought about that a couple times. Like, is it time to call Mom and say, "Please, can you come get me?" Did you drive up here to get me?
So did you actually have surgery then with that money you borrowed?
I did. Yeah. I bought myself a new hand. Damn fine investment, if I don't say myself.
Oh, a great investment, man. It worked. So then you were able to fight again after that. So then that's why there was a 6-month layoff. Is that what it was?
Yeah. That's freaking impressive to have your hand put back together and only take 6 months off. Now,
how much money did it cost?
I don't know. It wasn't cheap, like $6,000 maybe. I don't know. But
yeah.
But here's the crazy thing. Now, if I get a cold, I'm out for 6 months. If I get
that age, brother. Father time's undefeated. You know what I mean?
I spring my, like, you know, the finger. I got a blister. That's a year. I can't train. I haven't trained since before Christmas because I was doing a drill. Like, and I went to block a left hook and I got my hand knocked down. I was like, oh, it's bad shoulder, and I haven't been able to train since. You know? That's impressive, man. I shattered my hand. I fought 6 months later. That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
So why don't we talk about your opponent 6 months later, July 31st, 2003, Heat FC, Natal, Brazil. You fight Ebenezer Braga.
Oh, bad boy, man.
Dude,
that dude
wait. Let me frame this for us. At one point, this guy was arguably one of the top 3 in the world. And we had, Brandon Hinkle on. And Hinkle, coming from Hammer House, lost to Ebenezer Braga. And he said, from Hammer House, there was levels of meanness that I didn't understand. And Ebenezer Braga showed me what that was. That was his quote in our interview with him.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I got a question for you, Chris. How many times did you fight without cornermen?
Unfortunately, the first probably 5 times I went to Japan, the late great Phyllis Lee would tell me, "Chris, I got you a fight in Japan. They're not going to give you a cornerman though. They're bringing me over." And it wasn't until probably the 5th time I realized she's taking my cornerman pat. You know, so my first 5 times they give me a Japanese guy who didn't speak English, so it was awesome. But several times I've been there without a cornerman, but it's not good.
Yeah, so I didn't have a cornerman for this fight in Brazil. I didn't have a cornerman for the King of the Cage fight either. And the promoter, one of the promoters actually introduced me to somebody, and they warmed me up and held mitts for me like before the match. And I was like, oh, this dude's pretty good. Also, King of the Cage, the guy started giving me instructions. I hadn't planned on listening to him. I didn't know him from Adam's House Cat. He starts giving me instructions, and I'm like, those are good instructions. Yeah, all right, I'm going to do that. He's telling me like to swim my arm. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. Never met this guy before. The only time I'd ever met him before he cornered me was in the ride from the airport.
Who was it? Do you remember?
Nope, no idea.
Oh.
Never met him, never talked to him again. What about in Brazil? Do you the cornerman there any good?
Yes, it was a guy he's fought. He was out of Militich.
Ben Rothwell.
Yeah, Ben Rothwell's corner. Ben Rothwell fought. Did Ben fight before or after me?
He was the main event against Carlos Barreto. I saw Ben. I can't place his corner. I couldn't get enough. I even sent Miguel a picture. I couldn't figure out who his corner was.
He's fought a couple times. I forget his name, but he was just, dude, this dude was hilarious. A guy at Miltich. he'd been, you know, was like a reformed alcoholic, super healthy, cool guy. Yeah, you know, we were just talking about life, man. Me and this kid just, you know, and it was cool because he was like an older brother, you know, and man, we got some stories, me and him and that guy.
And Forrest, I remember one of my first fights.
Ben did not go. He should. It's good too.
One of my first fights in Japan, over in Pancrase, I fought, and Ebenezer Braga fought there, and I remember, I think he fought Fanaki, somebody really good. I just remember thinking, oh my God, this guy, he was really, really impressive. I was like, he's the best guy on the card. I remember thinking that. That's a tough guy. That was probably back in '99. I'm sure he's still pretty damn good by 2003. He was a tough individual.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd really just seen him like almost crank off what's his name's head, Jeremy Horn's head, and that was beautiful. And one of the first guys to use the fence instead of pulling guard on the guillotine. Now very commonplace, but the first time I ever saw it was Ebenezer Braga. And so, you know, people were making fun of me. Don't lose this guy; it'll ruin your Christmas. Ebenezer screwed you, but yeah. So I mean, I go out, man, and I just like I snuck up on people. I snuck up on Jeff. I snuck up on this guy. You know, it's just some young kid comes at you like he doesn't give a shit, and like, you know, the guy's trying to like stare me down and intimidate me, and I'm like giggling, like I just don't fucking care, and it's great. And I come out. He's a very nice guy though, but I mean, he tried to give me the Brazilian mad dog, and then I come out. You know, 2-3-2. I end up in southpaw stance. I said, I don't know what I'm doing here. I kick him in the leg. He dives in to take me down, right? So he takes me down. We end up in guard. I do the old, like, almost like I've seen Nick Diaz do it, just where you Kimura bail, take the Kimura, and use it to stand back up. And then, do you know how I ended up on top of him?
No.
I couldn't find much. There was no video of this fight online.
I don't know how this happened. I ended up on top of him. So he took me down. Now I'm on top of him. And this
maybe it was that hardcore jiu-jitsu, you know, that street jiu-jitsu training.
Yeah, it apparently worked. So I'm cross-eyed on him. His head's kind of outside the rope. I don't know. I'll make a judgment call. I knee him. Like I full on pop up, bring my body up and knee him in the head. And that was when I thought, damn, I'm going to hurt this. Somebody could get hurt. And that was the only time I've ever thrown like knees to the head, like with intent. So now I've been kneed in the head and kneed to the head. And so they restart us because I take us back and he's out of the ring and they restart us. And whoever the ref was, they literally, like, instead of like a full restart, they just slide us like a foot back in and say go. And like, I don't really know what to do because it almost feels like cheating because he's not even like defending himself at this point. So I just put the rear naked choke in and he taps out.
Wow.
It was just like a weird, like the referee was kind of like, I don't know. It was weird.
No,
yeah, that's not usual for them because usually they're going to get the home cooking there, the home field advantage. They're going to restart you or something fully, but they just dragging them back in.
I was having a good day, man. If they just stood at starting again, I wouldn't have complained.
Yeah,
nice. I mean, he could always catch you, but I was winning, and I could, I was winning, and I wasn't,
Forrest, there was a long time there in the late '90s when my favorite move was the knee to the head from the side, man. I like that because usually you land two of them and then they roll over and give their neck up, like kind of inviting the choke because there's honor in choking to a tap, but not so much to like strike. So they kind of roll over after a knee or two, like, go ahead.
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. It's a crazy technique for like kids today that'll never throw that. It feels like shit. Should I be doing this?
Yeah, you feel guilty later on, but with first, like, oh, that worked really well. You know what I mean? Yeah. But part of me kind of likes it because, like, if you're laying on your on the ground and you see that knee coming, you gotta move. You can't sit there and take that. So then it makes you open up. You know what I mean? So I kind of like the old ways where you can do whatever. Yeah. But there's definitely pros and cons to. You take too many of those, you're not gonna have a long career.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even targeting like to the temple or anything. You know, I was kind of thinking, can I get him in the temple? But then I was just like, I'll just hit him in the ear. Just make contact, damn it. You know?
Exactly. Just hit him somewhere. He won't like it.
Yeah.
So who was managing her at this point? Because I know Edwardo Alonzo lined that fight up for you.
Yeah. Shogun's manager, who still manages Shogun and corners him to this day.
Was he your manager as well?
He wasn't my manager. He's just the guy that got me fights.
Did you give him a commission?
I did not.
So he's just
That's
a
even
solid
better.
dude
How'd you
then.
swing that? It's a good deal.
No, I was fighting. It was his event.
Oh, okay.
I was fighting like I was basically like, I'll fight wherever you want. Maybe he was taking a commission. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. He was no Frank Bishop. He was no Frank Bishop. That's for sure.
I will say, usually when it's their event, that's when they demand a commission. Usually.
Yeah.
Mike, you used to deal with Brad Kohler and stuff. That's
You can fight on my event, but you're going to pay me 20%.
Yeah. No.
So, all right.
He was a good guy, man.
We're an MMA history podcast. Obviously, we're kind of going through memory lane. There is one tournament that we are trying to interview every single person on it. We've got Sonnen, we've got Horn. You're our third person in this 8-man historic tournament, light heavyweight tournament.
Babalu, Shogun. Yeah.
All right. So September
Eric,
6th,
somebody
2000.
that was supposed to be the next thing that ended up not being that good.
So let me go through the names. September 6th, 2003, the IFC $50,000 8-man tournament.
Woo.
Here's the participants: Babalu, Trevor Prangley, Shogun, Ua, Jeremy Horn, Mikhail Arvetistan, Forrest Griffin, and Tommy Sauer. Chael Sonnen as well. Did I say Chael? And Chael Sonnen. Fuck, I read your name. I didn't say Chael. And Chael Sonnen. There we go. There's
Sauer
8.
fought somebody else. Sauer fought Sean Gray to be the replacement. That is when Sauer guillotined Sean Gray, and then he would have been the replacement had somebody not been able to continue.
Okay. And the fighters that pulled off, you've got Paulo Filo, Mike Van Arsdale, and Hawaiian Nico Vitale. So even the backups that fell off were friggin' studs.
And
So
then, what was his name? Went on to be the champ of Strikeforce, knocked out Woodley with that elbow. What's his name? He fought on it. First time I ever saw him.
yeah, I don't. Miguel.
Strikeforce champion, knocked out Woodley with the elbow. White guy, Christian, real good.
Nate Marquardt. Nate Marquardt.
Nate Marquardt. Thank you. Yep, that's the guy. He fought in that as well.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yep.
So there's a lot of moving parts. Before we get to your fights, I want to kind of test your memory a little bit. How was the cage?
It was a cage?
Yeah.
There's that answer, Mike.
I don't remember.
Yeah, who, me?
All
right. So I talked to one of the guys that worked on the cage crew. He actually posts about our show a lot online. He goes by Crowbar. Fantastic individual. So in essence, they purchase a cage, like Paul Smith purchases a cage in California, brand new. They drive it from California all the way to Colorado, from like a real nice, hot, sunny weather to kind of very cold, high altitude. And this brand new cage, all of the boards warped, and it hasn't even been used yet.
Yeah.
So do you remember any bubbles in the cage?
Man, I was walking funny in it, but I think that's because I was getting hit so much.
Okay. Let me continue.
Yeah.
So the commission goes, this cage you guys can't use. We need to do an inspection with you here. And they got there real late. Like everything was last minute. As they're going through the cage, Paul Smith says, you know what? The bottom cage bumpers, I'm not real happy that they're white in color. There was an accident. The same day, he has Crowbar spray paint them black, and the paint never dries. So when you're watching Go ahead.
No, I remember people with black paint on them.
Yes.
What the hell's going on out here? I remember that now. I totally forgot about that.
So you think like, oh, it's just like an old video, it's kind of grainy, maybe this is like a duplicate off a VHS. There's blotches of black paint missing, and it's actually on the fighters' bodies.
Yes, that's what was happening.
Wow.
We couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. Here's another thing about altitude. So when you're from like Athens, Georgia, or Georgia, altitude is not your friend. I think they flew us out on a Wednesday, maybe. Fights on Saturday. I was not ready to go. I was also like, I think that was the first time. Yeah, that was the first time I ever fought at 205. First time.
Oh, wow. How was that weight cut, man? Was it tough for you?
It was, look, had I been smarter, I would have stopped. Fortunately, I was very stupid at the time, and I didn't know how harmful it was. So I just tried to push through it. But like my body was shutting down, my back starts hurting. I don't know what's going on,
I mean, you're not a wrestler, so you've never had to cut weight in your life. I mean, did anybody prepare you for this? And obviously, the more you cut weight, the easier it gets. But just trying to do it the first time's got to be unreal.
Rory had cut weight the whole time, and Rory was there to corner me, and he walked me through it. I think we bought like a Gracie book on weight cutting that had like water taper and stuff, which turns out to be the shittiest way to cut weight. Like the water taper is the dumbest thing. Like, don't fucking water taper people. It's not a real thing. Yeah, and I'm trying to, like, man, bro.
What did you weigh in at?
Huh?
What did you weigh in at?
No idea.
You weighed in at 202 pounds. You overcut by 3 pounds.
Yes, that is what happened. That's what happened. Yes,
203.
202.
202.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was almost dying. Great.
Yeah, consider they give a pound cushion, so he actually overcut by like 2 kilos. Yeah, 4 pounds. Sorry, Mike, for using the metric system.
Yes,
That's
thank
right.
you. Oh God.
Your first cut, you overdo it.
Well, he was cutting weight without a scale. That's what happened.
Oh my God.
Wow, man. I mean, that's kind of crazy, man. I mean, you had to be dying. You had to be like, I'm never doing this again. Were you thinking that? I never want to cut here again.
I don't know. I didn't understand what was happening to my body. It was like almost surreal. Like, what is going on?
Yeah,
But I was, the only thing that kept me going is I kind of kept sweating the whole time. I was like, well, I'm still sweating, so I must be losing weight,
Yeah.
So,
And plus,
hey, Chris, Chris, we need to start this from the beginning. How, at the airport, was there anything a little strange about the people that jumped in the car with you?
Oh, yeah. It was, it was Tim Sylvia.
Was he wearing anything?
He was wearing his belt. He made, it was Tim Sylvia. When we got picked up, it was Tim Sylvia. He was wearing his belt. And he
Is it
made
UFC championship belt, not like a normal pants belt?
Yeah, he was wearing the UFC championship belt. And so I'm fighting. I already feel like crap because I've already started trying to weight cut. And it was a long drive from the airport. And I'm sitting behind Tim Sylvia. And Tim Sylvia, he's 6'8", so he goes all the way back with the chair. Well, bro, I'm 6'3". So, and here we are, 90 minutes with this is the way to spend your fight week. And he's all the way, and I was like, Tim, could you maybe just give me like a couple inches, Like, yeah. He wasn't the nicest guy that day. I was also hurting too, yeah. I was already hurting. That's a bad sign. Like on Wednesday, you're hurting.
Oh, yeah.
Was he there with Horn? Was he there with Horn? Was Horn in the car too? That's your opponent. It works out.
I don't know if Horn was in the car or not. I think Horn was on a different flight because Horn was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I was told Horn was in a different car.
Okay, that's cool.
So your first opponent. That's fantastic.
No, time out. No wonder why Tim Sylvia would do me no favors.
Yeah, he's not your friend, buddy.
He's trying to hurt me. Now I get it. It never made sense because I've met him since then. He was always real nice, but no wonder why I was a dick that day. I was fighting his guy.
Yeah.
I never put 2 and 2 together until that moment.
Fight started. Yeah, the fight started at the airport. You know, it just
Turned
little
out
things.
the psychological war started that Wednesday. Who the fuck knew?
Put him in a
Holy
bad
shit.
mood the whole time. Yeah.
This is crazy. I'm learning stuff about my own life here. This is just
You know what, Forrest? We do this twice a week. We get the same reaction from everybody. Like they're like, "Wait a minute, what?" Yeah, we've got like a whole part of our YouTube channel to MMA conspiracies that we've like uncovered, where people are legitimately like mad 15 years later.
Oh, Mark Coleman's furious. Right?
Coleman wants to kill Big John McCarthy. He wants to fight him.
he was texting me just upset, man, just for like days later. Like, oh, shit,
Yeah.
you know, just still mad about it.
Dude, I had Hector Lombard texting me for a month afterward. This isn't sitting well with me. I'm like, Hector, you should do something about it. You can't let this go. You know, it's from 20 years ago. So let's move on here. First opponent, person we all might know, Chael Sonnen. The lightest guy in the tournament, weighed in at 197 pounds, I might add.
Wow. Okay. All right.
He overcut too.
Yeah, well, I'd say.
How'd that fight go?
Chael Sonnen, I think he's the one that started drinking soda after weigh-ins. Like, just started drinking a can of Coca-Cola Classic after weigh-ins. And there's actually like some logic to it. To get the quick sugar, to get the simple sugars in you. I just thought he was a psychopath, but there's actually like some logic to getting the sugar in you after a little cut or something. So, yeah. So I just remember, this is what I remember. I was warming up in the hallway, and Chael Sonnen's warming up in the hallway about 50 feet down from me. And, you know, this is what year is this? 2003-ish?
September 6, 2003.
So 2003-ish, like I said, jeez. He wasn't good at the stand-up part of the fighting yet. Didn't have that. And my corner wanted me, they told me later, they wanted me to go down because they didn't want me to see him warm up because he might be like sandbagging the warm-up, or they didn't want me to be overconfident. Well, it turned out the guy was never going to throw a punch. And he ankle picked me, I'd say, well, I've never been a glove toucher, so I wouldn't say he came out and ankle picked me like as I started to throw a jab immediately, and he just dove into my knee, and I went down and pulled him his guard as fast as I could because I was like, oh, yeah, my knee's gonna pop. I better get down here. And yeah, so that fight didn't last long at all. He starts hitting me, and just, you know, like an idiot, he gets more and more comfortable, and he starts bringing the arm back a little further.
Triangle.
One time he just brings it back too far, triangle him, and he ended up going, I think he tapped, but he also went out cold.
Oh.
And then so I go to get up, and it's hilarious because his face is just laying on my cup. And I'm just like, oh, that's awkward. That's awkward for everybody. And
Not a good look.
Yeah, and then so like I went hard on that triangle, and now I'm in the back. Fortunately, it was okay to cheat back then. So now I'm in the back.
Now it's a tournament. It's an 8-man tournament, so he's got to fight 3 times that night. Yes, go ahead.
I know that I'm fighting Horn, I think. And then, so I'm in the back, like rubbing Tiger Balm on my calf. There were a lot of us there, man. We had the crew, like the whole gym was there.
Was the arena freezing?
It was, because and I hate, you know, it was cold. And then,
And they piped in crowd noise too. It's weird.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
What was it well attended? Was there a lot of people there?
I don't think so. I'm going to say
no.
Yeah.
And I get to tell you another thing. They airbrushed the center of the cage, like the morning of, and the fumes, from what I think Chael told us, the fumes were just unbearable. Am I correct when I say that?
Yes. I couldn't breathe the air anyway because it was the altitude. So I was already breathing on fumes. Yeah. So
Jesus.
The other thing is, it was at the Pepsi Center, and it's huge. Like, it's where you play professional basketball games. this 50,000 seat arena. They have 2,000 people in there. So that's why it was like, yeah, look up the location. I'm pretty sure it's where like the Denver Nuggets played.
Yeah.
Okay, so Forrest, in the fighter meeting, okay, I don't know if this is true or not, so you're going to have to either confirm or deny it. It was a misunderstanding that the promoter said it was a 50,000 take all, and one of the fighters goes, "Wait a minute, what about this part, this part, this part?" And there was almost kind of a mutiny in the locker room. Is that true?
Like you didn't get paid if you didn't?
Yeah, because like they were like, "No, it's a 50,000 take all," and then there was kind of like a renegotiation of contracts in the locker room.
I think it was too that everybody, like, you had show money for the first fight, but if you went on, like, hey, I won one fight, what do I get for my second fight? And that was going to be a freebie until then you're in the finals. So kind of a bad situation there. Nobody had worked through.
That's what Chael said.
Yes. So that's true. Here's the thing. That didn't really seem to matter for me and Chael.
Yeah. Well, Forrest, in our interview with Chael, like he was like one of our first big interviews. Chris and Miguel told me, do your research and don't stop until like he hangs up on the interview with us. Like we were given a 30-minute window. We took 90 minutes and he had a prop in his hand pretending like he had to take a phone call at like 90 minutes. And then he hung up on us.
It's awesome. That was good. We knew it was going to happen.
So, either way, your second round, you get Chael, you get him in the triangle. Jeremy Horn is your next opponent. Jeremy Horn at this time, I think his biggest asset is able to stay calm under pressure and
good.
Breathe. Yeah.
So good. I'm a Jeremy Horn fan. And I knew Jeremy Horn I knew all these guys going into it, And then, man, I tell you what, it was a great fight, right? And
phenomenal. I thought you were winning too.
So did I.
He even pulled guard at one point because your stand-up was so intense.
Yeah. Well, he was clipping me too, but I read an article he wrote, or an interview, and he defined the perfect way to throw a head kick. And he said, he hadn't been kicking all fight. I'd been kicking him in the leg, but he hadn't really been kicking much. The only head kick he threw was the one that knocked me out. And I remember that's genius though, right? And so I remember thinking, I think it was the start of round 2. Was it the start of round 2?
Yeah.
So
about midway, about a minute and a half in.
Yeah. I remember thinking like, I've got this. I just remember thinking, I'm on. If I can just land this big right hand and make him feel my power. And I'm walking towards him like an idiot, like cocking my right hand. And that's the last thing I remember.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Did your check clear? Because the IFC had some financial issues as well.
My check absolutely cleared. And great story there. Great stoppage by the referee. So my face was all damaged up. And that was all from when he mounted me and hit me 3 or 4 times. And then I got up and I asked the ref, like, what'd you fucking stop the fight for, man? And he was like, bro, look. And then I looked up and I said, why didn't you stop the fight sooner, man? It's like,
Hey, man, $50,000 had to be a huge, like, oh my God, this is it. You know what I mean? This looking forward to that had to be a huge, like, possibility that had to be it for you at the time. How disappointed were you to not hit that $50,000 mark?
I wasn't that. I fought well. I did pretty good. I was a teacher's assistant basically at that time.
Okay.
And then I remember I had the $7,500. I paid my coaches 10%. Paid a couple outstanding bills. And then I waited till like the semester ended and I just quit my job. So $7,500 was a lot at that time. And this was when I didn't make enough to pay taxes. So thank goodness.
Yeah. I'm just saying like 50,000 to me back then would have almost been life changing. Like I can actually do this all the time. You know what I mean? So that'd have been a huge thing, but you just kept grinding, man. Forget, okay, I got 75. I'm going to keep grinding. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a couple of nerdy questions. We were talking about Chael, and you were on the receiving end of it, and you referred to it. He looks fantastic with the ground and pound because he has great posture and he swings from way back, and it looks like he's hitting you very hard. Does he hit you very hard, or is it more showy?
I think it was hitting me pretty decent.
Okay.
I don't recall. It's like that was
fair.
15 years ago.
Who's hit you the hardest?
I'm not 100% on that night because of Jeremy Horn. That kick to the neck, that was really hard. So I don't know. Who hit me the hardest? So the person that's probably hit me the hardest, people have hit me hard, but I can't tell you. I wasn't there that I know of, probably Vanderlei Silva was the guy that's hit me the hardest and like not knocked me out or caused me to lose consciousness.
So let me just kind of wrap up this tournament. Just so, like, we always talk about like amazing stories in MMA. That's what this podcast is all about. This tournament, it's known as like the greatest light heavyweight tournament on U.S. soil. But like, if there's like a Netflix special that needs to be made, it should be about this event. The ring announcer Jeff Weller and referee Josh Rosenthal worked that event. Later took federal time for a $6 million weed bust. Their broadcast booth consisted of Ryan Bennett, Big Papa Schnocky, both who have passed away since then, and Jens Pulver, obviously a legend in the sport.
Yeah, no, and my understanding is that was like a couple months after the Pride Grand Prix, or right before, or right after. So it kind of got overshadowed by the Pride Grand Prix, right?
Yeah. Fuck, amazing event. So we're going to move on to December 18, 2003. You fly back to Brazil for Heat FC, and it is kind of advertised as a revenge bout because you've with Ebenezer Braga, and they put you in against Edson Paradeo.
Yeah. The Wall. That was his nickname.
The Wall from Nova Greco Paraiba.
That dude hit hard. So, man, you kind of like reach down for those kicks sometimes. I tried to catch a kick kind of the wrong way, and it ends up clipping me on the forearm. And I'm sure you've seen like an Ultimate Fighter where I'm like sitting back, my forearm's broken. They're like, "What's that?" And it broke my forearm.
Oh man!
One of the opening exchanges.
Now, did you know it was broke then, or did you just know it hurt?
This is the great part. I didn't know what happened. It just felt like I got shot. And then I caught him with a nice hard jab. And then I kind of felt mine go, wah, 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 wah. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And then like at one point, it's a pretty like shitty fight. Like it's
interesting though.
Yeah, it's not very skillful on my part. Maybe it's because I was distracted by the broken arm. But like, I throw the hardest leg kick I can. I kick him. He goes, okay. Rochambeau's me back. Throws the hardest leg kick he can. I dive down. I push him down, and I'm starting to try to hammer fist or whatever from guard. And that dude hits me from the bottom, and it hurt. Like,
wow.
I'm shook. I'm like, whoa. And then he is so strong, he grabs my broken hand and starts to push it for a triangle. And I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna destroy what's left of my arm. So I just got up. I was like, so I just get up for no reason. And then it's both of us, we just kind of stand there and try to throw some baseballs at him. He goes down. I go over with my good.
I think you're muted again. You're muted.
And,
we can't hear you.
That was it. I say it's the first round.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
That's weird. It just does that every now and again.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Last time we heard it was you start throwing some baseballs at each other.
Yeah, we're just throwing hammers at each other. And I end up clipping him. He goes down. He kind of falls awkwardly, and I just clip him a couple more times. And I think that was it.
Well, there's a couple things.
It was a weird one.
there's a couple things. Like you hit him with like almost like a short right hand because your left obviously is broken, and he reacts really bad to it. Like it's almost as if he for somehow hit a cardio wall, took a stiff punch, and it was almost like he needed to get out of there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I don't remember, but it was awkward because he was like moving, you know, how long into the fight was that? Like, it wasn't that long, but he was.
It was in the first round, but it was almost like he redlined.
Well,
you know,
no,
worked his body.
It was a 10-minute first round.
Okay, but let's kind of reverse a little bit because we're missing probably the best parts of this fight that we're not talking about. So they bring Forrest Griffin in as the American. He's going to, represent the United States and Brazil. Forrest, tell us your pre-fight speech honoring us Americans, please.
What did I say? No idea.
You said that you're here to represent all of the fat, overstuffed Americans.
I'm here to represent all the fat, stuffed, over-consuming American scum.
Yeah, scum. Yeah, shit on his own country in Brazil. Yeah,
he's right there. 100%. I'm with him.
Actually, Chris is on.
I'm from America, where we know how to consume some more.
Yeah, I think he dedicated it to me. I think that was personal. Thank you.
Well, then Forrest,
American.
Here's the thing. So you got to remember, everyone's going to be booing. He's, obviously an American in Brazil. Forrest comes out with a Christmas hat on and a bag, like a Christmas bag full of like stuff that he's throwing in the audience. What was it? Like T-shirts? What was it?
I'm throwing T-shirts to the audience.
Was it like your gym or yourself T-shirts?
No, they were like event T-shirts. What's his name? You just said his name. Shogun's manager, Edwardo. Edwardo, that was his idea. And he knows, like, I'm the one guy dumb enough to do it right before a fight. So I'm like, sure. Another great story. When I fought Ebenezer Braga, I'm talking to the DJ, what song do you want to come out to? I said, I was really into like Outkast, Bombs Over Baghdad.
Oh, great song.
Well, got lost in translation. I come out to Sally, that girl.
A little different. A little different.
And I'm just like, what? This is like a Cool Mo D song or something. What's going on here? Yeah.
Well,
hey man, that throws you off when you're getting ready to fight. Your song doesn't come on. You're like, is this me? What's going on here, man? That's not my song.
Yeah.
Could have been It's Raining Men.
It's like, do I go back? Am I the wrong spot?
Yeah, I'll come back.
God. But Chris, the kids today will never be able to relate to this.
No.
So
I got a question for you. How was you broke your arm? How was the hospital in Brazil? Is he frozen? Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm sorry.
Okay, good. No, good.
He's flashing back.
No, my wife's just telling me we have to go pick up our daughter.
Okay.
Wait. No, it was not good. That's a great story. Edwardo, the man. So I wait till after the event. I'm drinking a beer. We eat dinner after, like they have a big team dinner with all the fighters. So after we go to the hospital, and I'm in pain by now. Like it's starting to set in. It's been a couple hours. And Eduardo's stud, man. It was really cool of him. He took me personally to the hospital. So like that'd be like an event promoter taking the emergency room. And then it's full and there's people sitting on the walls. So I see one open seat and I'm not doing well. I go over to sit down on it. It's open because there's vomit in it. Somebody's vomited in that seat and there's people on the other side. So they take me in to a guy that looks like he is a brick mason. And he just slapped something on me, bro. And then an Indian doctor, like from India, comes in, puts the sling on, and tells me I have this, that, and the other. And this is my ulna is broken, And I was like, oh, okay, It's like
you're almost broke.
Yeah, you're almost broken. It's pretty bad, but you're all right because your radius is still fully intact, so you should be all right till you get home. I was like, all right, cool. But yeah. And then one more thing on the way out of Brazil. So I have what looks like a very makeshift cast. So this little dude at airport security, he doesn't believe that what I have is a cast. He thinks I'm smuggling drugs. And he goes over and he grabs the cast with my broken arm and starts squeezing on it and examining it. And bro, I just grabbed him off of me instinctively by the throat. And then I panicked because I just grabbed the police officer by his throat. But yeah.
Well, on the plus side too, you're in Brazil now, so I don't think it's a big deal about not getting the pain pills like in South Africa. You probably got plenty of pills, steroids, whatever you wanted.
Yeah. Well, Brazil is 2000, whatever. Yeah.
You have to take off now. You got to get out of here.
Wait, can we just close with one thing? I mean, if you've got time, Stephan Bonner, we've had him on twice. We talked about his entire career through him. You guys did an appearance in British Columbia together.
Oh, geez.
How did he get you back to your hotel room?
Man, I mean, I'm guessing he carried me. Bro, that's such a rough one. That's embarrassing. Yeah. So we are, man. Yeah, that was not my finest moment. And then they also intentionally, the promoter didn't like so he got us like a 5 a.m. flight, whatever. So we are doing stand-up comedy. I don't do stand-up comedy. It's not a thing I do. I'll talk to people, but I don't do comedy. So they have really good wine. I'm a wine guy. They have good wine. So I get hammered. And this beautiful waitress, she really wants me to drink the wine. So I keep drinking the wine. I'm on stage, whatever. And, I just got sick. What did Stephan say about it?
He said, Forrest, I've got to be very direct with you. What happens is I contact people that know people personally. A lot of times they say, no, you need to be surprised by this. This is you're turning your pockets inside out with this question. He refused to answer and said he'd come on if you didn't answer it honestly.
I mean, I think that's what happened. I remember throwing up in Stephan's bath. Like I just got naked, got in the bathtub, turned like the shower on, and just threw up and tried to drink tap water. And I just laid in the bed for like, an hour. And then we went and got on the airport and ate McDonald's and got on the airport. And I slept on the plane. Wasn't that bad?
Hey, man.
Yeah, no one got hurt.
Hey, sparring with Gilbert Yvell, how intense was that?
Oh, man. So Gilbert, I went at him pretty hard and I realized he was good. And the thing is, first of all, he's actually a pretty nice guy, but I was basically like, look, dude, if you drop me to the body, cool. If you drop me to the head, I'm not going to work with you anymore. And he was out of people that would give him work. So basically, nobody else would work with him in Vegas. So basically, like, Sean, what's his name, wasn't around yet.
Sean Tompkins.
No, Sean that just fought last night and won.
Strickland.
Strickland. Yeah. So, so basically, he was like a pretty decent sparring partner with me after the initial, because I was like, dude, if you drop me to the head, I'm not going to work with you. I'm good work. So just try to drop me to the liver.
Okay, we know you got to go. This guy also hit a 20-minute sparring session with Wanderlei Silva without any intermissions. And he also sparred with almost like a fist fight with Vitor Belfort.
Wait, who is this?
I was told you fought Vitor Belfort in the gym and you fought Wanderlei Silva as well on 2 different occasions.
No, me and Wanderlei Silva sparring, also fighting. But the thing about Wanderlei is, no, we weren't like, or not Wanderlei, Vitor. So he clipped me. So neither of us are great wrestlers. It's Big Glove Day. He shoots to take me down against the fence. He can't take me down. So he starts to back up to the center. I just walk to him like an idiot, like not really defending myself, like thinking he'll re-engage. He stops a step before I think he's going to stop. And bang, bang, he lands like a lead right hook, rear left uppercut, and I'm hurt. And he might remember it differently, but I'm hurt. I had to be visibly hurt. He comes to finish me, and I'm like, whoa, bro. So I just hug him for like a minute and it's over. And then like the next week, he's like, hey, let's work again. I'm like, you rang my bell last time. We're going to give me a minute here, brother. give me a couple weeks before we go again. Yeah. No, but he was, yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe it didn't look as bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, Chris, have you ever been hurt where it doesn't look as bad? And maybe I looked like I was okay, but I was like,
not okay.
Forrest,
yeah,
I think you have an ability like myself. I've been rocked in the gym, and I noticed one thing. Looking at fights later, I got a pretty good poker face, and like, I feel a lot worse than I look. Like when I'm looking, I'm like, man, I wasn't doing good. And I watched, like, it didn't look that bad. So I think you probably had that ability to make it look like, it's not that bad. But like when you feel like you're all over, like you're falling, and you watch it, it's not as bad. Maybe that's what happened.
Yeah,
we've concluded the before the UFC interview with Forrest Griffin. Forrest, man, we appreciate your time. You gave us way more than we expected.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. I love those stories you've given us. People ain't gonna hear that stuff.
Thank you guys for knowing more about my life than I do. No kidding. You've helped me you've helped me put some pieces in. Yeah.
Well, now you got new stories to tell about yourself.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Well,
thank you very much.
Go pick up your little girl, man.
Yeah.
All right, be good.
Take care, bro.
Thank you guys.
Later.
Well, Mike, another one in the books. Forrest Griffin, we delivered another one, man. I think we got another satisfied customer. I think he was happy to, once he got into the flow, I think we got him. I think he's a fan.
Yes. So he's not an easy guy to track down because everybody's pulling at him. You know what I mean? Everybody is, even though it's years since his last fight. And, we kind of let him know, hey, this is going to be a long one. It's kind of like when we bring these interviews to the people, they always say, what kind of time constraints? We always ask, what do you have available? And then we always go over it. With Forrest, we were direct. We just, we were very honest with them. So.
Yeah. And I think in the interview, when we're talking about early days and stuff like that, it's like, what was the weight? I don't know, because I didn't care. What you get paid? I really didn't care. The kind of free-spirited, happy-go-lucky Forrest that everybody loves. That's what makes him hard to tie down for these interviews. So it's a feather in our cap. And I think he'll come back at some point. I don't know. It may take him a little bit, but maybe he won't, but I think he liked it. I think
he shot me a text stating that, man, he really enjoyed it. Jeremy Stevens did the same. So we're hitting on all cylinders right here. We have a talk show, I guess it's just done via Zoom, and phenomenal guest. And then on top of that, Frank Bishop really helped us out. Like, he really helped connect the dots on this, and we can't thank them enough. So when you got guys like Frank Bishop connecting the dots, you got guys like Crowbar who are posting about our stuff on various social media forums. And then we got a guy, Genghis Conrad, that's doing the times so we can do the chapters. None of us are getting paid for this. So it's, it's nice. It's nice that we've kind of got our own little community. And if we had somebody for social media, it would be phenomenal. But we got our own nice little community now.
Yeah, but Forrest, I think we'll go down as a landmark. I was thinking about this. Who is more famous, him or Chael? I mean, if you on that short list of fights that we talk about, you got to put Chael Anderson in there. You know what I mean? It's like, man, there are some those are probably the two biggest stars we've gotten. I'm not putting anyone down. We've had champions on. We've had guys with longer careers and things like that. But that tough season 1 victory for Forrest made him kind of a household name and stuff. And it's one of the things that we talk about. And Chael kind of forced himself into that household name, during his heyday too. So very interesting comparison.
We only hit his pre-UFC career. We went, 2 hours, 10 minutes roughly. And the next part of his journey is the Tough House, where he obviously gets to the finals, but then has to wait 5 months with no fights and no income until he can get paid to fight Bonner in the finals. So we went through that line of questioning with Stephan, and he brought us through it about how difficult it was, about having to pay to get into his own parties, like at bars and stuff like that. And, part 2, we're going to have that same line of questioning with Forrest Griffin. And, the one thing I really enjoyed too is when we get to reference other interviews that we did in the past. And we were able to do that quite a bit in this one based on the common opponents of the people that we had interviewed.
Yeah, and I like it. Obviously the historic fight, him and Bonner. Now we've got both, bookends on that fight, both guys.
Not yet. We got to get there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think the foot's in the door, So
Right.
I'm happy. I like we got a lot of loose ends like that, things that we got to get back and start completing. So a lot to do, busy times. I'm glad. It's a good thing.
That's right. No, for sure. And the more of these we do, the better it is. And our audience keeps growing, which is, something awesome to, experience as, both you and I are watching on a daily basis. We're looking at the numbers. And we don't have a significant audience, but the audience we have is very loyal. And it's important to us, that somebody's at least listening to this, Yeah,
it's good. And I think it's gonna be something that's there forever. And I think, down the line, people will get more and sink their teeth into it and stuff when they realize what's going on there. Because there's a treasure trove already out there.
Yeah, we're almost 100 interviews in, and every single one follows the same format with the same investigative process that all three of us kind of, put into the mix. So yeah, we're doing good stuff. Very, very happy. Maybe one day we'll make $100 off YouTube.
Hey, we're good enough to get Forrest Griffin's attention. That's more than most people would say. Thank you very much, Forrest. And we're out of here. Next one. We're coming up on 100.
April 8th, Bourbon Street, 115 Bourbon Street, south side of Chicago. I'm doing color commentary there. And then April 16th, I am in Orlando, Florida for Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro. I'm hosting a jiu-jitsu tournament, so please come and register on Smooth Comp. Friend of the show, Carlos Diaz, is going to be refereeing. Head ADCC ref, even though that's a completely different company. So, yeah, guys, please say hello. I'll be back in Florida, Minnesota, and Chicago all April. So,
Forrest Griffin is in the books.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.